Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast. Welcome back to the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. It is Friday, November 3rd. This is episode 45. We are obviously in a different studio now, so for better or for worse, like I said on the first episode, it'll be a bunch of testing things out. So we are now testing out a new area of the building, and thank goodness we have a green screen. So
there's lots more stuff to look at in here, though.
I mean, yeah, I like this a lot more than the curtains. It was kind of showtimey what we were doing before.
Yeah,
but it's nice that we're on the same plane, not like back of your guys' head on that. So it's all good. Luis is pulling the trigger. We can pan over to the left. We're like right next to Luis now, which is nice.
No Manu Ginobili bald spots or anything.
No,
at that other angle.
Damn. Throwing Don under the butt. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not throwing any under the bus. That's a Manu Ginobili. Have you ever seen the GIF where it might have been the block on James Harden or something like that, or no, it's somebody else, but it's a reverse shot of Manu Ginobili, but like somebody comes up and like flips the bald spot closed or something like that. Somebody flips the bald spot closed. It's a pretty funny GIF.
No, I haven't seen it. My favorite GIF of Manu is the one I always use is him just smacking the bat out of the air. That's my favorite one. It's like, how are you feeling? Gah! Anyway, this is episode 45. I'm Matt Roy, Zack Hedrick over there. Start with the number game, even though we have a crap ton of stuff to get to. It is a wild time in Texas and football, baseball, basketball, and other alien sort of things that we see on the basketball court. But we'll start with the number game as always. This is a very near and dear one to my heart because I'm a Red Sox fan. Pedro Martinez comes to mind for me. Number 45. He was the most dominant pitcher there for about a 7-year stretch when they broke the curse of the Bambino and all that stuff. Pedro probably, for my money, one of the best pitchers of all time.
The Yankees are still his daddy, though.
Are they?
Yeah. I still believe he campaigned hard to pitch in that game 7.
Oh, for sure.
That's the only, he will lie and say, no, I had my spikes off. I was not going to pitch in that game. No, he wanted to pitch in that game.
He needed all the redemption he could get.
I guess.
So,
and they got it.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, it's another one you have listed on here, Bob Gibson. I mean, Pedro for this most recent generation, my generation growing up, and Pedro was dominant, from the late 90s into the early 2000s. But going back and looking historically, I mean, Bob Gibson, if you were an opposing hitter, you did not want to see him on the hill.
Absolutely
because
not.
That dude, he even scares me. And man, just what a competitor with World Series recency bias, a 2-time World Series MVP. I mean, one of the more dominant pitchers, I think, in the game. So for my money, it's Bob.
Yeah, and then if you were looking at like current players for the new generation, it would be like Donovan Mitchell over in Utah. I mean,
yeah,
Donovan Mitchell, one of the best players right now. I mean, I don't think he's that great compared to his team and like how his usage numbers, but that's just me. Mm-hmm. He is still a great number 45. Pedro and Bob Gibson, it's hard to get better than those two, though.
Yeah.
So, it's tough. Usually I make the rundown. I'm like, okay, what's the lead today? You know how we do in journalism. It's like, what's the lead? And then what's the first graph and all that stuff. We got 3 leads because I didn't really know what to start with. So I kind of wanted to ask Zack. It's like we have the Cowboys going into their tough division game against Philly. We talk a lot about the Cowboys. We got the Rangers World Series.
Old news.
And their parade's today.
Yeah, no, it's happening right now. Yeah,
parade's going on right now. But I kind of feel like Wemby's like Thanos, where he's just inevitable. So I thought we should start there.
I think so as well. I mean, it's just incredible what he's doing, and I know everybody's just kind of like, let's tap the brakes on the effusive praise, but really when you're just looking at all the comparatives, it's like, hey, it took this guy so many games to have this kind of performance or score this many points, and you go down the list, it's like Shaq, LeBron, Dirk, anybody that you can name in the NBA, it's like they didn't do it in 5 games. Now, will Wemby do this every night? Probably not. He's still going to, have a learning curve as far as rookie goes. But, being in his rookie season and all, he's going to still make an impact defensively. And he did that on the very first possession for the Suns last night.
Yeah.
And then, he goes off and really it's his teammates finding him. It's Tre Jones driving the lane and just being like, wait, let me look back. Oh, yep, let's give it to the 7'4" guy.
Hey, feed the trailer.
And let him slam dunk it. So, pretty easy offense. Yeah, he was like I looked. He was like 10 for 19 at one point. I
can't
remember what
he was 13 for 24 at one point. I don't have the shooting numbers down, but he shot extremely efficiently.
Yeah, no, he only put up like 4 3-pointers or whatever, but all of that is inside the paint mostly. So, and it's like, keep feeding him.
I saw a tweet from David Hinojosa over at Express News last night, and he was just like, it feels like it's too easy to say, like, sixth grade basketball, throw it to the tallest kid in the middle and just see what he can do. Yeah. But it seems like that's what's working for the Spurs right now. It's like they throw it in. There was one play last night where they threw it into Wemby, or he tapped a rebound out right to Jeremy Sochan, and he goes up and lays it in. So he ends up getting the tap assist, even though he could barely reach the ball, and he just bats it over to Jeremy. And it's like literally the ball's 5 feet away from him, and he just taps it over to Jeremy. He gets the easy layup. It's the things that his height allows him to do, but it's not just his height. His athleticism, his agility, his want to win, his will to win is what we saw on display on Tuesday night. And then we really saw on display last night when he scores those 10 points in the fourth quarter, and kind of they tie it up after being up 27. The Suns tie it up at 116, I think it was.
Yep.
And then they go on like the Spurs go on like a 15-3 run to close the game. It's just it's unbelievable what will to win can create.
That to me is the more impressive part. Yes, the Spurs shot the nets off in the first half, up by 20. And it was kind of crazy. I remember reading that on the sportscast last night. It's almost a complete reversal from the night before. It's just like they're the ones up by 20 at the half. But for Phoenix to salt away that lead and get back into the game tied at 116, like you said, the real impressive part for me was what this young team did in the closing final 4 minutes or whatever it was. That's winning time. And to go on and, shut them down and go close it out with 16-5, over the last 4 minutes, it's like that's pretty doggone impressive.
Yeah, there's so many impressive parts of this team right now. One of which was like you have this big emotional win on Tuesday, where you come back in the closing minutes. Tre Jones might have fouled Kevin Durant. The league says that nothing happened, that it was an overreaction, and that he actually didn't hit him in the face when that steal happened with Keldon. But you have that incredible closing second win, the first road win of the season for him after getting blown out by the Clippers. You come back, you get that, and then you kind of assume like the national media and pundits and everyone was just like, well, the Suns are going to come back and kill them. They were 9-point favorites, and then you have Devin Booker come back. I think they went up all the way up to like 10, 11-point favorites last night going into the Thursday night game. And then the Suns come out, and they're up by 20, 25 in the first half. They get out to that 9-0 run to start the game, and it's just like, oh, well, they're not going to do what they did last time when they won last Friday. I think it was against the Rockets. And then in that really emotional come-from-behind victory, and then you come out and you lay an egg against the Clippers. And then you come out, you have an emotional win against the Suns on Tuesday, and then you didn't lay an egg. So they're kind of learning how to bounce back, which is even more impressive for that young team.
Yeah, it's very early. Again, we're 5 games in. They're finding themselves. It's a young team learning how to gel and play with each other. And they're figuring it out early. Again, Tre Jones, he's the one. And Jeremy's coming along too, I think, as far as that point guard position. And they still have time to experiment with that. I know some fans are kind of maybe clamoring to, okay, yeah, that's not working out. They have the luxury of time, right? So it's an 82-game season. We're just 5 games in. So, yeah, it's a young team learning how to play with each other. And these two are obviously going to be a big confidence boost for them. So, man, buckle up. It's just going to be fun to watch basketball this winter.
Yeah, I think I saw it was the first Spurs rookie last night that had 38 points and 10 boards in a game since David Robinson. So, I mean, not enough. Like, you can't say enough about Wemby's performance last night. 38 points, 10 boards, 2 assists, 2 blocks, kind of willed his team to win. And there's so many images where the stills are the things that like really take people back. Like, you have Kevin Durant, who's a good 7 foot tall. Like he's 6'11". He says he's 6'11". He's 7 feet tall. Right. I've seen him. He's a very tall man. And him standing straight, arm straight up to Wemby, and he can't even get to the ball where Wemby's releasing it. It's like
shooting over him.
He's shooting over him he's shooting over a 7-footer who we're all comparing him to, and it's just like he's not even there.
Sure.
It's unbelievable where his shot comes from, how he's able to create his own offense, how he's able to come off the screens and act like a small forward, a power forward. Even in the center minutes, he's being unbelievably efficient. And then it's just kind of amazing to see how Tre Jones and Jeremy and Keldon and Devin, who I hope is not really injured. They said that he might be out for a little while, which really sucks because Devin was having a great game last night, 17 in the first half. But it's amazing to see how all these young guys are starting to be like, okay, I can kind of just, here's where I need to throw it to make sure that only Wemby can get it. Here's how I don't turn the ball over trying to get it to Victor. Here's where I need to go to make sure Victor sees me. All those kinds of things to making sure that you can really become that kind of unit.
And you bring up Durant, just going back to kind of heaping on the effusive praise a little bit. I think he was asked after the game. It's just like, hey, what do you think about this comparison, Wemby and you? Is that fair? And he's just like, Durant was like, no, he's his own guy. Like, already 5 games in, if Kevin Durant can see that, it's like the praise is real. It's like the things that he's doing, it's, nobody's seen before. And if these guys can recognize it, obviously the sophisticated fans here in San Antonio and across basketball are going to recognize that too. I think they are. So as far as people's being, oh, well, maybe we should, ease off on, saying he's the next best thing. No, he is. He's given more time to develop, and it's just going to be exponential.
Yeah, and with all these nationally televised games early on in the season, I think people are starting to truly realize like who Wemby is, what he's about, and really start to invest and see what the future of basketball really looks like. Yeah. Because you have him coming from France, and a lot of people might not have seen him besides the highlights that we ran leading up to the draft and like all of that stuff, and you don't have all those eyeballs on him. And now 5 games in, they had the preseason game. It's like you see what the possibilities are here. Yeah. It's inconceivable. Like I don't even think we can fully comprehend the full possibilities of what Victor can become and what the Spurs can become with him as the lead guy.
And while all that's happening, we're seeing the spectacle happen, unfold in front of us. But all the while, I'm just thinking of Coach Pop seeing these games, and the wheels are turning. Of okay, he can do this, he can do this, he can make this move or whatever. All these things are happening, and he's just in the lab thinking, okay, we can bring this piece in, add this guy. If we get a player who can do this sort of skill or, defensive set or whatever like that, it's going to take them to the next level. So, man, 82 games after this, what are they going to do after that? That will be a lot of fun and intriguing to watch as well.
Yeah, I mean, and you can see just how the odds have shifted. Like his Rookie of the Year odds are now at minus 350, which means you would need to bet $350 to win $100 in Vegas. That it's just using that as like a point of emphasis. It's like his odds, I think, coming into the season were like minus 125, which is an implied odds of like 51%. Now it's almost an 80% chance they're saying that Wemby's going to win the Rookie of the Year.
Right.
And that's a factor of getting those eyeballs onto him. And it's like everyone can now see him. Everyone sees exactly what he does, how this team rallies around him. The odds should probably be even worse or even better. I mean, you're 5 games in, the odds have already shifted this much. They're like, it's a narrative award, and so if he's even remotely like this the rest of the season, I think he'll probably get it. But it's insane that how much the odds have shifted towards him, towards him and towards the Spurs.
The big thing will be just staying away from injuries. Knock on wood for everybody, because with bigger guys in the NBA, that's kind of what curtails the career a little bit. So. But the Spurs are going to be smart about that. They have his trainer Guillaume, from France, that here with the team working with them. So they're going to stay with that, and I'm sure the lines of communication are wide open between Wemby, Pop, the training staff, everybody. They're talking like crazy just to make sure that everything's on the up and up. And if there's even just the slightest twinge, look for them to go into conservative mode and be careful with it, because they don't want to do anything to derail this, at the outset.
Yeah, I mean, he's played the first 5 games. He's played pretty significant minutes in most of those. I think one of the first game he was in foul trouble, so he didn't play very much. But he's been over 30 minutes, I believe, in every single game that he's played so far, and I would see that continuing in every game he plays in, unless he does have something nagging at him. And
sure.
Speaking of injuries, I mean, Devin, I hope, is not very injured. He tweaked his groin last night. They are going to get an MRI to see the full extent of it. Yeah. I'd imagine that he's going to miss a few weeks. Which really sucks, because Devin is one of the best things of having Wemby and all these eyes on him is that you have all these eyes on the other players. And I think people are truly starting to realize that Devin is a certified bucket.
Yeah, and it's facilitating. I think there was one play where they got the ball to Victor kind of up high, just inside the wing, outside the elbow or something like that. But Wemby kicked it out to Devin, who knocked down the three.
Yeah.
I mean, so again, yeah, that goes to that team aspect, like you're saying. When everybody starts to hone in on Victor, it's just like, well, that just opens up, all kinds of space for everybody else, including Devin. And yeah, you kind of touched on it earlier. He was having a great night shooting the ball. He's coming off that knee injury from last season. Hopefully this is something minor and it's just, maybe rest it for a couple of days and he's back out there. Because, yeah, you hate for him to miss any more time than he already has, going back to last season.
Yeah. I think one of my main takeaways is that I'm happy that we've kind of been vindicated and proven correct that Vegas doesn't know what the hell they're talking about as far as a win total goes. They're at 3 wins. They just got 2 wins in Phoenix against presumably one of the best teams in the conference once they have all their pieces. Obviously, that was Devin's first game back, Devin Booker's first game back. You got Bradley Beal's first game still yet to come. He hasn't even played yet, but they're 3-2. They've already beaten the best team in the West, presumably 2 times, and they have all they need is about 26, 27 more wins to go to beat the Vegas win record. So sorry, Vegas, you guys need to readjust your line because they're going to blow past that by about game 60 at least. It's unbelievable. One of the things I wanted to talk about with you is something you touched on a little earlier. Jeremy is being the point forward right now. He's adjusting to the role very clearly. He's great defensively. He held KD down in the fourth quarter last night, but there's a lot of clamoring that Tre Jones gets back in that starting lineup because of the distribution and the true point guard that comes along with him. Last night he had a double-double. I think he had 10, 12 assists. He had 10, 12 points. His plus-minus numbers have been far, far and away the best on the team so far. I think he was plus 19 when he was on the floor last night in his 28 minutes of play. What do you think when it comes to who should be the point guard there? Should it be Jeremy coming off the bench? Should they shift it up and put Tre back in? What do you think?
Well, I think right now it's kind of 6-1, half dozen the other because, you would love Tre Jones to get that starting role and you have that from the jump, and have all that distribution and have that impact throughout the game. But also, too, I think it's also a plus to have that coming off the bench. It's like when you have a guy that can do that off the bench, that's 6th man of the year right there. Yeah. So when you can average a double-double, points and assists and everything. Again, I think they have time to still, experiment, play with it. Let's just kind of see what happens. Of sure, you want to get a rotation set because, if you are in the mix for like a playoff spot or something like that, you want to have everybody's role nailed down so then they know what their job is and they're not guessing of, okay, oh, I'm supposed to do this. Oh, coach told me I need to make this pass, and that's not the time to make that pass because when you're thinking, you're not playing. Mm-hmm. So, just from an experience standpoint, sure, I say Tre Jones is supposed to be starting, but I think you still have some time to play it. It's kind of a yes and no answer at this point for me.
I mean, right now the starting lineup lacks 2 things: outside shooting and a true point guard. Mm-hmm. One of those things Jeremy can develop into. The other thing Jeremy might not be able to develop into. I mean, he has an okay outside shot right now. I don't know what the projection is for him to be able to become a knockdown shooter. Right. But I don't really think that's his role. He's not a knockdown shooter. He's a defensive guy that can make a good pass and get inside.
Yeah.
And so he's never going to be the 3-and-D guy. Tre can be that knockdown 3-point shooter. He was 2 for 2 last night. Starting out, he had 6 easy points in the first half. One of them on a great assist by Victor. I think the team flows better with Tre. But like you said, there's a luxury of time right now. If they drop 5 games because they're experimenting with a lineup, they're experimenting with who plays well with whom, that's okay. That's okay for Pop. That's okay for the team. Like, they have that luxury. They're not going on to win a championship this year, probably. I mean, hopefully. That'd be cool. But
yeah, they'd like to. If they're going to be in the mix, they're definitely going to push for it.
I mean, that'd be really cool. I hope they do, for the record. But in all likelihood, that's not going to happen. They still, I think, have the 4th, 5th worst odds in the NBA to win the NBA championship. So I don't see that happening. So, however, you have the luxury of time. You can adjust. You can put Tre in. You can put Jeremy on the bench. You can put Devin's now going to be out, so it's going to be interesting to see who they start on Sunday against Toronto back at home. Who's going to take Devin's spot? Is it going to be Tre? Is it going to be Malachi? Who's it going to be?
I would say Tre probably slides like you move Jeremy over to Devin's spot. You get Tre into the point guard and I mean roll that out there and see what happens. And then when Devin comes back, maybe you can flip flop Jeremy and Devin. Who knows?
Yeah.
Again, you like Jeremy's defense, and you need that on the floor. The defense is still something that the Spurs have to improve upon, but that should come the more time again they play with each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
As far as just gelling and knowing everybody's where they're going to be, and just the relationship, the spatial relationship of okay, this guy's got this guy, or the backside cut. I don't have to worry about that. Whatever.
Lastly, last week I think we both assumed and said that the Spurs were going to win about 40 games. I think my opinion has changed on them a little bit.
Okay.
To where I think that if barring health, if Devin's not out for a significant amount of time, obviously health is always the great equalizer among a lot of things. I think my opinion has changed to where there might be a 50-win team because
cool.
of just their ability to. They are the team of the future when they have positionless basketball. Like, you have no one that's really cemented into a spot. Wemby can play center. Wemby can play 1. Zack Collins can play 5. You can even move him to power forward. He can go outside. His 3's starting to fall, which is nice. Jeremy can play 1 through 5. Like, you have this true positionless basketball, and I think that's the future of the NBA, and they're kind of ahead of the curve. So I think that their ceiling is a 51 team.
That sounds great to me. I mean, I still think it's still a little early. I still have them way above that, ESPN win total, which is just ridiculous.
26.2 on ESPN.
Right. They're, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of like a 38, 40, 42 win team, which is kind of on the edge. As the season progresses, those teams in the West are going to figure it out too. It's not like everybody else is just going to stay the same. If you play the Phoenix Suns in February or March, look out. It's going to be a different animal. So the Spurs obviously they're not going to stand pat either too. But right now I still have them kind of in that, fringe, kind of play-in tournament team a little bit. And who knows if they catch fire, then they definitely could be up near that 50-win total.
I am an overreactor, so I understand. Speaking of tournaments, I wasn't on the rundown, but I figured since we're here, the in-season tournament starts today.
It starts tonight.
Any feelings on?
I don't. I mean, it's just it's kind of like, well, they're playing regular season games. It's just this one maybe carries a little bit more. I would like, I wonder. It's like baseball. They have like the fantasy leagues, that happen during the season, and people talk about those. So I wonder if this is going to be something too, where there's like some side action, that's, in between the lines, they maybe talk about it a little bit, but, and it's kind of like the fans and media hears about it just kind of on the fringe. And it's like, okay, something else is going on. So it's like, there is some extra motivation, so it should be fun. I don't know. It's kind of hard to follow a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's just, okay, this game counts for something else. And,
like what the hell's going on?
Yeah. So
I mean, my opinion is like, does anyone really care? Like, do
don't
the fans care? Do the players care? Do the coaches care? I know the coaches might get an extra $500,000 or whatever for winning. I mean, then that's no chunk.
That's when it starts to get interesting.
Yeah.
The players start, okay, we'll get up for this one.
Right, and like when you're making millions and millions of dollars, does that really move the needle that much to where you're going to push through maybe a sore groin or something?
To those guys on 13, 14, and 15, it sure as heck does.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. But, I mean, to Dame, it might not. I just, I'll see how it goes, and I'll be interested to see what the TV numbers and stuff look like, to see if there's actually people interested more in these games than regular season games. But to me, it just doesn't move the needle. It's like, why are we doing this? Especially 5 games in. It doesn't. In-season tournament isn't like, let's start this at the 5-game mark. I thought it would happen in like January or something like that, but they're going to have it in November with the finals in Vegas, and it's just, I don't know.
Yeah, it's spread out over this month, isn't it? And then it ends in Vegas in
Yeah.
December. Yeah.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It really doesn't.
Now that it's here, it's like, okay, maybe get familiar with the format, and then, all right, they win, they lose, whatever.
Yeah, honestly, I need to go brush up on what the format is. I saw a couple articles like, here's an explainer. I'm going to have to go read one of those a little bit later because I have no idea. I know that the Spurs are in the same division or bracket as the Warriors. That's all I really know. All right, let's get to one of our other leads. So there's a parade going on, Zach. You're not there, sadly, which means that the Rangers won the World Series, and I think I told you yesterday. I felt bad for your neighbors a little bit because I'm sure that there was some hooting and hollering going on in the 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Yeah, when they finally broke through, I mean, tip of the hat to Zack Gallen, though. What a heck of a ball game he pitched. I mean, and that whole game was like on a razor's edge the whole way with Eovaldi getting out of jam after jam. It was nerves were frayed the first 5 innings, and then it's like, man, what could have Eovaldi done if he had pitched that 6th inning and copied that for all the previous innings? But just what a series, what a run by the Rangers. Just it's still crazy to me that a team that I grew up watching. I mean, I've been going to games since I was 6, 7, 8 years old, sweating it out at the ballpark in Arlington. I know it's called something different, but it's always the ballpark in Arlington. Globe Life Field is the new place. It's nice to go in when it's 108 outside and it's 72 inside. That is very nice, but just what it means to that franchise is just crazy, and all the fans, because it's 2011 got washed away now. Being one strike away twice just was heartbreaking. That was like the worst feeling that you could have as a sports fan. And now to be on this pinnacle, it's crazy.
Yeah, I was sitting down. I was working Wednesday night in news, and then about 9:00, my story was already done. So I went and sat down with Chuck and Don in the sports department, and I was like, "Okay, here we go. They're breaking it open a little bit." And then we get to like the 8th and 9th, and Don turns to us. He's like, "Is David Freese on this team?"
No, he who shall not be named.
Yeah, he's like, "Here comes 2011." And I was like, "Oh God, shut up,
stop."
But I think you hit the nail on the head. It was a team that the Rangers, they're a team that it kind of has everything. Like, you have guys that were bought, like Simeon and Eovaldi and DeGrom, who obviously got hurt, and Seager and Scherzer and all these vets that you needed to purchase and get to come to your roster. But then you have the guys that were homegrown, and you have the Josh Youngs, and you have the Leotis, and you have the guy that you traded cash considerations for in Adolis.
Mm-hmm. Evan Carter too.
Evan Carter, yeah. You have all these guys. You have this mix of teams, and you have this mix of personalities, and that's what makes baseball so cool. Is like you have people from all walks of life, and you have like, there's nowhere more diverse than a locker room or a clubhouse in Major League Baseball. But you have like everybody that just came together for one common goal, got it done, and delivered 63 years in the making, if you want to go back to the Washington Senators days. So I thought that Corey Seager was the clear MVP. There was no question about it in my mind. I mean, I think if Eovaldi threw a better Game 1, then he might have been in conversation because he threw a great Game 5.
Yeah.
But Seager's home run in Game 1, Seager's home run in Game 3, it doesn't get bigger than that.
No, he was kind of clear cut. I mean, if Adolis stayed healthy, maybe.
Yeah.
If he hit another home run or something like that, you could have made an argument for him. But yeah, Seager, just what more could, second position player next to Reggie Jackson, and when you look side by side, it's just like the numbers were almost the exact same.
Seager's the true Mr. October.
Just you can't take that. I mean, Reggie will have something to say about that. He's just like, yeah, I got more rings, next.
For now.
Yeah, but it's he's fantastic. Of course, he was the big, nobody's crying any tears for him just because of the contract that he has and stuff, but he was sold on the vision, and that was, they kind of, both the pitch, I went back and looked, Chris Young, it was the pitch to them was just like, look, yeah, you know where we are. This is part of the rebuild, and do you want to be a part of that? You can go anywhere else, but do you want to be a part of that? And that really kind of bucked up their competitive edge a little bit, and they said, heck yeah, we want to be a part of it. Let's go. And then we talk about this run in October and everything, but I mean, going back even during the season, they had 6 All-Stars. 4 or 5 of them went down in the second half. You lost Evaldi, you lost Young, you lost Adolis Garcia, you lost Jonah Heim, with a wrist issue. To overcome all of that, people may say, oh, yeah, they spent a bunch of money, but go back and look at that. Other guys stepped up that whole entire season to get them to that point, and that's the impressive thing. Going back to that team, it's the mix of guys, and really it was, because when DeGrom went down, Dane Dunning pitched out of his he pitched lights out for a little bit.
John Gray
held down that spot a little bit to get that, to kind of galvanize that pitching rotation a little bit. So at different points all throughout the season, guys stepped up and made the plays, contributed. Mitch Garver was huge in the month of August and September. So just what a team.
And you look at the early August when they went on that skid of 9 games, 7
They
games,
lost
whatever,
8 games in a row.
8 games in a row. And it was just like the team could have completely come apart right then. They lost their big lead that they had in the AL West. The Mariners were surging. Houston was coming back. They had just gotten swept by Houston. It was like everything could have kind of come apart at the seams, but instead you galvanize together. You get things back on track. Martin Perez is there, and he's kind of taking up some innings for you. You got John Gray, you got Dane Dunning, you got all these pitchers that are pitching out of their minds, trying to keep you in ball games, and it's like you stayed the course.
Yep.
I wanted to ask you, because you're a little bit more of a baseball guy than I am. When it comes to Bruce Bochy, what effect do you think Bruce had on this team as compared to previous managers that the Rangers have had?
He's the magic glue. I mean, when Chris Young got him to sign on, they set up some pillars, and the one that I like the most, I mean, yeah, they it's be a good teammate and all that kind of stuff, but the one pillar that I think is, dominate the fundamentals. This team improved defensively dramatically. I mean, and Seager kind of, known for his bat, but, not the greatest glove sometimes. But the dude, they didn't make an error during the World Series. That is huge, because the Diamondbacks, they made less errors than the Rangers during the regular season. So it's like you have 2 great defensive teams, and that played out because, Christian Walker, he made that error, which could have been a double play, that led to a 5-run inning in Game 4. And then that, kind of catapults them into having that 10-run lead all of a sudden.
Yeah, and then Thomas in Game 5 with the overplayed ball that brought in 2 runs at the end.
So, I mean, just his steady hand, I think, and, it's almost going back to Ron Washington, they called it the wash gut. He kind of had that gut move too, where it's just kind of like, this guy's maybe running into some trouble or something like that, but it's like, no, I'm going to stick with my guy, or, no, we're going to bring in and play the matchup and stuff like that. The fans may be screaming for him to do something, but he just sticks with his guy, and the players respond to that, because it's just like, hey, I know my manager's got my back. He's got my faith in me, and then so do my teammates. I think that helped elevate them and stuff. And the experience that he has guiding a team through the postseason, that's immeasurable.
Yeah, I mean, it's his 4th World Series. He won every even year from 2010 to 2014.
He was already a Hall of Fame manager.
Yeah, I mean, he's in his 100th year of managing, and he might be the best manager in baseball right now. I mean, he's still clicking on all cylinders. No, not enough can be said about Bruce Bochy.
Yeah.
I did want to ask. I know the ink is still not dry on this World Series, but can they do it again next year?
Well, so I think Max Scherzer was asked that too, and he's like, yeah, I'm not going to say anything stupid like that just yet. I mean, they'll have a shot. Granted, they do have a bunch of, pieces returning and everything. I mean, the infield is obviously going to be there. all really, I think, comes down to that pitching staff. And sure, you're going to have, 4 of those guys. DeGrom is the question mark because I have no idea when he's going to come back.
He's not a question mark. He's not going to be there for
well,
more than
so
5 games.
Even after his injury happened, they said, so his timetable is like August of next year. And this guy was done before the All-Star break. So it's like, okay, it's 13, 14 months. That's the timeline that you're giving us already. And it's just like, that's crazy. There's guys that come back, 12 months or sooner. Now, I know you don't want to, it's an investment. You don't want to risk something, pushing somebody back too quickly. And even guys with this season, Eovaldi, Scherzer, there were guys that they kind of pushed it a little bit. And it was like, yeah, maybe we kind of, Bochy said that a couple times with a couple of guys. It's like, yeah, maybe we pushed them back too quickly. But it paid off. But, yeah, you still got Eovaldi, Montgomery, Scherzer, and then, okay, 5th spot's kind of a wild card. Hopefully it's John Gray or something like that. But that rotation,
Good rotation.
that's pretty stinking good. Now, obviously, if you can add a lockdown reliever to that,
As I say, you get a couple of guys in there.
And then, of course, you need your offense to kind of keep up the same production.
You get a couple of guys. You're going to have Seager and Simeon, obviously. You're going to have Josh Young still. You're going to have Jonah Heim still. You're going to get a full year from Evan Carter.
Yep.
You're going to have Adolis Garcia. I mean, you're going to have your pieces. And so it's going to be the back end, seeing who, is it still going to be Leote? Is it still going to be Janikowski? Or is it, why am I
well, what a job by Travis, coming in and stepping in for Adolis Garcia, and he performed that first night, so they've got a bunch of guys that, will contribute next year, and maybe they add just 1 or 2 role players or everything. But right now, it's just like, man, just enjoy this one, soak it in.
All right, you heard it here first. Zach's calling for another World Series.
No, not saying that.
I'm just happy for Corey Seager. He finally got a legitimate World Series. So, sorry.
Dodgers fans will disagree with you.
Yeah, I know. I'm friends with a lot of them. I'm from Southern California. All my friends are Dodgers fans down there, and so I give them crap about their 60-win World Series all the time. Anyway, let's get to the Cowboys real quick. So, Cowboys in Philly, huge matchup. Like, not enough can be said about how big this game is for both teams. Philly's coming in at 7-1. Cowboys are 5-2. To me, this game's going to come down to can the Cowboys defense stop the Eagles offense? One is Hurts hurt is what I really want to know, because he looks not himself. He ran the fewest times in any game he's ever played last week. I don't know if that was because of him being injured or if that was because they're trying to save his legs for a game like this weekend. I could see it both ways.
Yeah.
But can you stop AJ Brown? Can you stop the tush push that now apparently is a sweep around the edge?
Yeah, they showed a different
run, so you gotta prepare for that now. Can you stop Devonta Smith that comes in and relieves A.J. Brown? Like, there's so many aspects of this Philly offense that are dangerous that even though that it doesn't seem like they've clicked all year, you still have to prepare so much. And that offensive line against that defensive line is going to win the game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the defense, you said it, it's going to have its hands full. So many weapons for Philly and everything. Something interesting that I heard Micah Parsons say earlier this week, they were asked about, the brotherly shove, tush push, whatever you want to call it. And Micah said, no, we're not really practicing defending against it. It's just like the way to defend it is don't let them get to 4th and 1, 4th and 2, whatever it is, which, yeah, I kind of agree with a little bit.
Fair.
Keep them out of that situation. And, yeah, they're not going to run it. So, Jalen Hurts, strong dude. I mean, the guy squats 600 pounds. I think he's just going to be fine, wearing a knee brace, whatever it is. I think he, guys have said he's sliding a little bit more. So I think he's getting that awareness of just, I don't have to, fight for every single yard.
But maybe that's such a big part of his game, though, is running.
No, yeah. Maybe he does in a game like this because, they recognize the importance of it. Look, it's both teams are going to get up for this. The Cowboys have actually had the edge over the Eagles just in terms of regular season. I can't remember what the record is, but last year was interesting. Jalen was playing in one game, but Dak was injured going against Cooper Rush, and then later in the season it was the reverse. Dak was back, but then Jalen was out, and they had Gardner Minshew. So
I think this is only the second time that those two have
they have
faced off against each other?
not faced off against each other head to head. So really, in addition to the defensive lines, whoever wins that battle on both sides of the ball, it's man, who can have the better day throwing the ball. There's times where, Jalen Hurts, he can get a little pick prone. Dak, same thing. So it's just like, who can have the cleaner game in terms of Cowboy play or quarterback play?
Yeah, I mean, the last time we saw these two teams on the field together, it was Christmas Eve. I was there. Gardner Minshew almost won that game for the Eagles, but Dak was able to carve up that defense pretty good. Like he for some reason, he plays well against the Eagles. That wasn't home, however, and obviously they lost in Philadelphia last year with Cooper Rush. But I think Dak should probably have a good game.
He's been very good these past couple of games.
He has been. What I'm worried about is that even though they destroyed the Rams last week in an avalanche of big plays in the second and first quarters, you saw some chinks in that offensive line again. And that's what I'm concerned about. I mean, Chume Udoka went down again. We still don't know if Tyron Smith's going to play this week, so we don't know if Tyler Smith's going to be out of the left tackle, which opens up that left guard spot. And I mean, you saw Aaron Donald beat Zach Martin last week, so I mean that concerns me a little bit. It's like I'm just concerned about this offensive line because they're not the dominant force that they used to be. And if you're gonna go against a team, you don't want to go against the Eagles, who have Jalen Carter and Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham and insert other Georgia player here.
Right, and maybe kind of we'll find out what kind of a plan of attack they have to neutralize that front a little bit. Maybe it is it's obviously not going to be a carbon copy of what they did against the Rams, throwing it, come out firing straight away and ease up that pass rush. Who knows? Maybe this is the game. Tony Pollard's been talking about it. It's just like, hey, a big game's coming. Just it's waiting for the right time. So you would love for him to roll up 100 yards on the ground and maybe a couple scores, but that ground game hasn't it's been sputtering.
Well, the Eagles do have the best rushing defense in the league. So if there's a game you want to try and break out on, I don't know if this is the one.
Well, I mean, yeah, just looking at, if we're going off straight statistics and stuff, but that's the thing about the NFL. It's just like, oh, this team looks so good in this aspect, and then it seems like this season, whenever you've had that storyline, it kind of gets turned on its head when the game happens a little bit.
Right.
And in some instances, that doesn't happen every time, but man, it's going to be a knockdown drag out. I mean, just I don't know. This one, another coin flip.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a pass heavy game. We've seen that the running game can't really get going this whole season. I mean, as a Tony Pollard fantasy owner, I know that he's not doing very well. And the offensive line isn't really getting the push up front that you want from him. I was surprised that they didn't go out and trade for another back. I know they really like their quarterback or their running back room. So I think Rico will get a little bit more run this week just to kind of be that banger a little bit.
Sure.
And they're going to try and use Pollard as a little bit more of a change of pace, kind of like he's been and that how he's excelled in the last few years. However, I think this is going to be on Dak's shoulders because the Eagles are 24th in yards allowed in the NFL. I mean, they're going to have they're going to be open.
Yeah.
Can CD be and have the game that he did last week? Can he get open? Can he make this offense go? Can Michael Gallup catch a pass? Can Brandon Cooks get open? Can Jake Ferguson make a catch like he did in the end zone against the Rams? Like can all these things happen and win this game and get you in the driver's seat of your own division? I don't know, but I think that it's gonna come down to those guys, to the big uglies.
Yeah, we'll find out Sunday.
Do you think this is a measuring stick game? I know Jerry said it's not. He also said a lot of weird things in his interview on 105.3 The Fan. Yeah. But
I heard Glory got mentioned once.
Yeah, again. Glory, and then a certain device or a certain other word.
Locale.
Yeah.
That's Jerry.
He just says things. But Jerry doesn't want to call this game a measuring stick. I mean, I think it is because
they won't say it's a measuring stick game to us, to Dallas journalists and press and all that kind of stuff. It is. They know it is, but something that Dak has said where it's just like, look, we're not worried about looking left, right, behind, whatever. It's like we know what no more meaning needs to be added to this game. We know what it is. It's just the fact that it's a division game. It's like we have to go out and win this. Never mind that they're a contender for the Super Bowl and all that kind of stuff. We have to go out and win our division, and if we do that, we should be where we want to be.
Yeah, Jerry also said this on 105.3 The Fan up in Dallas. He said, this is serious bleep that we're dealing with up here on Sunday, man. We've really got to have our game face on, but then doesn't want to call it a measuring stick. So, love Jerry.
Well, Jerry's talking in circles per usual.
Well, he also called the Super Bowl the glory hole. So, good for him.
Well, yeah, he did that a couple years ago or whatever. Just I'm looking for some. Yeah, well, I'm not going to do it.
Didn't he also say we get to suck on that all week? A couple years ago,
he says all kinds of. I mean, God bless him. The man's 80 years old. I mean, I don't like it whenever when the Super Bowl is being played, that weird sound you hear is going to be me screaming into my pillow, and it's just like, okay, Jerry, stop! Like, dude, it's past creepy now.
Somebody go get Grandpa.
Yeah, exactly.
Steven, go get him.
Boy, gosh.
He's endlessly entertaining.
Foot insert mouth.
Well, no, the thing is that he doesn't care.
No, he doesn't, because, again, it's all about getting his team out there in the cycle. Oh, can you believe what Jerry said today? Oh, boy.
Well, it's like once you get to a certain age, you just really don't give a flying crap.
No.
And, like, my grandma says a lot of things that shouldn't come out of her mouth. She called the cake orgasmic once, and it was just like, why? What?
Perfectly good adjective.
I mean, I guess. It was a little uncomfortable because I made the cake, but whatever.
So what are you saying here, Grandma?
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna go. Anyway, so real quick, do you think they win or do you think they lose? The Eagles are favored by 3.
What's the point total?
I think that's a good question. I just have let me see real quick.
24-21, Brandon Aubrey field goal.
Brandon Aubrey field goal wins it.
Yeah.
In Philly.
Yeah.
Give me 1 sec. I'll look up the point total. It is 47.
Okay. Yep. I'm sticking with that.
So the under and the Cowboys cover.
Yep.
I am going to go with. I was sadly accurate when we predicted the 49er game because I said that they were going to get their asses kicked. But I'm going to go with. I think it'll be a little closer than that. I think it'll be a 10-point win for the Eagles. I'm going to go 51-20. So,
51-20.
Or sorry, 31-20. 31-20 with a total of 51.
There you go.
Yeah, my bad. 31-20 Eagles over the Cowboys, and then I think the Cowboys get them back in a few weeks.
So it's a wash.
Yeah, so it'll be a wash. In my opinion, I think they each split. Mm-hmm. I don't think either team is good enough to beat the other team twice.
Yeah.
And I think that the Eagles have shown that they're not exactly running on all cylinders right now. You hear that from Jason Kelsey every week on the New Heights podcast. He's like, we can't score in the red zone. We got to get touchdowns. We got to do all this. Apparently their offense is only good when they play against the Commanders. So, we'll see how it goes. But let's get to North Texas, UTSA real quick, which might be, honestly, the best Texas on Texas team rivalry in the state right now. I mean, UTSA hasn't beat North Texas and Denton in 10 years. They beat them in 2013. Jeff Traylor has never won in North Texas. 2017, North Texas won on a minute-long 98-yard drive that kind of put the old regime out for pasture. Mm-hmm. Traylor's second year, UTSA was 11-0. They lost to the Mean Green 45-23 in North Texas. And I think it was the last game of the season. North Texas was trying to make a bowl game. So Jeff is not underplaying how big this game is for UTSA.
Well, immediately after the game on Saturday against East Carolina, it was just like it seemed like a very business-first attitude from everybody that came up. Frank Harris is just like, no, there wasn't a whole lot of celebrating because it's like we know what's coming up next and we're looking to improve and we got to go get that one. They're on a roll right now, but again, it's going to be a tooth and nail game, I think, between these two clubs. You look at it and people may go, "Oh, Mean Green 3-5, we should roll them. We're on a 4-game winning streak." That's the kind of mentality where it kind of sneaks up on you a little bit. But UTSA not overlooking them at all. They've got a bunch of good football players. Coach Traylor knows that. The North Texas program is solid. It's a different change there. Seth Luttrell, I know, was out after they lost in the regular season finale last year. So it'll be a good one. Hopefully the weather report looks nice up in North Texas, so that's going to help. I think throwing the ball around for Frank Harris in the offense, which has really come on these past few weeks.
Well, you heard Jeff after the game too say, and you were there getting the sound. It's like we've lost one game in November, and I remember exactly which one it was, and it was the one I just talked about when they lost 45-23. Yeah. And you can tell he thinks about that all the time because they shouldn't have lost that game, and they did, and they got their butts kicked in that game. They'll be the first to tell you they got whipped up front, and I know that Jeff has been kind of chomping at the bit to get back to North Texas. Mm-hmm. The Roadrunners are 7.5-point favorites in this one. The over/under is an ungodly 70.5. What's the prediction here?
I'm going to go 38-31.
38-31.
UTSA.
So the under, and UTSA does not cover by the hook. I am going to go 45-35 UTSA. I think that they cover. I think the over hits because the North Texas can do a lot of things well. And
you got a guy who can sling it around too.
Yeah, I mean
they're kind of up. They're up there. A lot of American teams are kind of up there in terms of passing.
Their defense sucks, which is par for the course. Their defense is bad. I know Don was kind of mad last week when they almost beat Memphis, and he was up there for his reunion, and then they gave up 3 plays and 40 seconds to North Texas lost to Memphis. So that was funny. Sorry, Don. But I think North Texas is going to get their points. Trey Moore is going to get his sacks. Yeah. The UTSA Roadrunners are going to get theirs on defense and on offense. I think they come out. They might even put up 50. I think their offense is really rolling now with Cephas and with Robert Henry. They've discovered their run game again with Kavorian Barnes, Robert Henry, and all those guys up front. Tyke Ogle-Kellogg has really come on this season. He has been amazing in replacing J.T. Clark and Zachary Franklin and all those guys. I think Tyke really has stepped up. And it's the offensive line is playing a lot better than they were when they were battered and bruised a few weeks ago.
It's amazing what happens when you get all your players back and everybody's healthy.
And that's what Jeff said early in the season. He's like, it's going to come down to health. Our offensive line has been battered and bruised all for like the last 3 years. And it's like Mekhi Hart, like your heart goes out for him because he's just like, he's the guy on that offensive line, and they lost him like game 2. Yeah. And so it's like, you're finally starting to get your feet under you. I think they go up to North Texas and they get this one done. So, Sooners, Bedlam. Got any hot takes before we leave?
I don't. They just better beat them. My gosh.
6.5-point favorites right now, I think.
It's in stool water. Stool water.
Stool water.
Yeah. Drive up north until you smell it, and then drive east until you step in it.
I've never heard that before.
Oh, that's an old Okie saying. That's been around as long as the hills.
Oh my God, I've never heard that before. Stool water, and I guess that's the hatred. That's the rivalry game for you guys.
That's the in-state rivalry.
Which one do you care more about?
Texas.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
I can't remember what the record is off the top of my head, but come on, it's like 91-18 and like 5. That's the overall record. It's just like, it ain't a rivalry unless both teams win. Yes, both teams have won, but Oklahoma overwhelmingly runs this rivalry.
Oklahoma State's been coming on, man.
And I give them credit. Gundy's figured it out. They looked like they were going to be a Jekyll and Hyde team a little bit, but now it seems like they found some players, they found some pieces. So it's the in-state rivalry, so it's gonna be tough. It's not like somebody's just gonna trounce somebody.
Real quick, Texas, Kansas State. Texas is 4
I'm
point.
Looking forward to watching that one, man.
Texas 4-point favorites.
I think Texas comes out and it'll be close. I think it'll be around there, but I think Texas gets a 3-point win.
Yeah, I think it's a 3-point win too. Kansas State has come on strong.
Yeah, Coach Kleiman, man.
I don't know what to believe in Malik Murphy right now. He did not look good against BYU.
I think he came on. It's just the first game and everything, and that team believes in him. I mean, Coach Sark talked about it after that win against BYU. He could have chosen to go anywhere else, and when you have 2 number 1 recruits coming in, Quinn Ewers and then Arch Manning back-to-back like that, he could have gone anywhere else that he wanted to, especially after the spring game that he happened. But Malik Murphy stayed, and, man, what kind of character does he have? And of course, his teammates have rallied around him. So I think it'll be just fine.
As always, we can do this all day, but we got to get out of here. So that's all we got for you on Friday edition of Sneakers Cleats Podcast. Remember to download, rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy, tell your mom, tell your dad, tell somebody, tell grandma. I taught my grandma how to use YouTube and actually watch this the other day. She's impressed. She's impressed. She's doing well. Mimi, shout out. We'll be back
Shout out Mimi.
Shout out Mimi. We'll be back on Monday as always. Until then, the Sun Devils are going to beat Utah this weekend. You heard it here first. Have a great weekend.
Ooh.